Hello and welcome to this Saturday special of the Gary Newbon Sports Show in conjunction with Utilita Energy and the Daily Mail Online Sport. We're going to relive some of our best interviews. On the way, Harry Redknapp reflects on his greatest moments in football and why winning I'm a Celebrity in 2018 changed his life forever.
Absolutely changed it massively. I mean, from being a football manager, the fellas used to talk to about football, now it's all women and kids. I mean, we're like a tourist attraction down here when we live in Southampton. Cars stop outside, we live on the beach, so everybody's on the beach. Harry, Sandra, give it. It's non-stop.
Ahead of the North London derby between Spurs and Arsenal, we'll relive our interview with this Arsenal legend.
You know, because they call themselves the Invincibles, because I just left, and then the next season, Jens came in and they became the Invincibles. But I call us the Incredibles, because we won a lot more trophies.
Good. And Frank Warren celebrates 40 years in boxing this weekend. He'll relive some of his favourite fights. I mean, some of the list of world champions you've had: Nazim Hamid, Frank Bruno, Tyson Fury, Josh Warrington, Joe Calzaghe, Nigel Benn, Billy Joe Saunders, Steve Collins, Chris Eubank, Amir Khan, Ricky Hatton, and there'll be others as well. Gosh, that is a fantastic career, that one, Frank.
Yeah, I can't complain. I've been involved with some decent fighters and some decent fights over the years.
We're going to start with Harry Redknapp ahead of this Sunday afternoon's North London derby between Tottenham Hotspur and Arsenal. I started by asking Harry about his connections with both clubs.
I could have signed for Arsenal when I left school, but I went to West Ham, and all my love for Arsenal disappears straight away.
Yeah.
Once you become a professional footballer, I used to go to Arsenal with my dad. My dad was a big Arsenal fan at the time, and so we used to go to watch the Gunners. But no, once I left school, then my allegiances were all with West Ham.
What about Frank as a manager? We know what a great player he was, and 100 plus caps for England. I think it was 106. What a manager he's turning out to be. What's your view of how quickly he's done it?
I had no doubts, given the right, it's like everything, Gary. You need the right players. You need to be at a club where you listen. The most important thing to be a top manager is to have top players. It makes the job much easier, believe you me. But I had no doubts. Given the right circumstances, he would be a big success. I mean, when he took the job at Derby, I rung Marcus Evans at Ipswich. They were looking for a manager, and I said, look, take Frank Lampard. And Marcus met him and wanted to take him. Frank wasn't sure, he got on well with Marcus, but wasn't sure that that they were going to invest in the transfer or look to take the club, try to have a bit of a go. And Frank obviously was wanting to go there and try to get promoted, but he looked at it and didn't feel he had a real chance of doing that. And then I rang Mel Morris for him at Derby. And when I rang Mel Morris, Mel said to me, "No, Harry, I wouldn't be interested in Frank Lampard. He's got no experience." He said, "No, I'm taking an experienced manager." I said, "Mel, you haven't had much success picking managers in the last few years." I said, "Take Frank Lampard. He'd be an incredible signing for your club." I absolutely battered him, really. And in the end, he said to me, "Well, look, maybe as an assistant." I said, "No, he's not an assistant. He wants to be a manager. He's not going to come as number two unless you bring in whoever, Pep Guardiola or whoever, Angelotti, someone. It might be different, but no, he's a manager in the making." Anyway, in the end, he said, "Look, I'll meet him. He said, "Well," I said, "Have a meet with him. Meet him." He went, "Okay." He said, "Well, I'm going to London tomorrow. Is he in London?" I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "I've not even asked Frank if he'd be interested in the Derby job yet, but I'm going to ring him." Rang Frank, yes. I said, "Would you be interested in managing Derby?" He said, "Yeah, of course I would, Harry." I said, "Right, Mel Morris, the chairman's in London tomorrow. Can you meet him?" "No problem." I made a meet at 6:00 at night. He rang me at 7:30. Mel Morris, I've just offered him the job. He said, he blew me away.
Great. Said, and then he went to Chelsea. And what are his, besides having good players and money behind you, what are his qualities as a manager?
Well, he's a very, very bright lad, isn't he? He's been brought up with the game, Gary. I mean, his dad played 20 years for West Ham. So he's been around football his life, and He knows the game. He was an incredible trainer, the best trainer I've ever come across. I've never seen anybody could come anywhere near him when it come to working on the training ground. No one anywhere near him. He'd be out on that training pitch at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when everybody else had been up, gone home for 3 hours. He'd still be out there doing his sprints, doing his shooting, practicing. So, you know, he takes them qualities with him, that determination to become the best at what he does. And, you know, to be successful. I mean, that there is qualities as well, you know. And he's, as I say, he's a very bright guy, a very clever boy, articulate. You know, everybody respects him for what he's been as a player and the way he's worked at his game. So, yeah, I had no doubt that, you know, he understands the game. There was no doubt in my mind he'd be a success.
Now, looking at the family, of course, related by the sisters marrying Frank Lampard and Harry Redknapp, twin sisters. Why are the players?
Gary, they weren't twins.
Yeah.
Is that no? They weren't.
They weren't twins.
Sandra was older than Pat. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that everywhere that they.
Everyone, were twins. Yeah, everyone thought they were twins. They were very much alike, you know. And, but Sandra was 2 years older.
Okay, thank you for correcting that.
No,
now you can explain why Jamie Redknapp, who played for England, Frank, who played for England, why were they better players than their dads, who were decent players? I saw you both play at West Ham. You were decent players. But actually, Frank Senior did win 2 caps for England.
Yeah.
You played for England youth. Why are the sons better than the dads? Because normally in sport, it's the other way around, isn't it? Most of the time.
Yeah. But you know what is amazing? People always say it must be in the genes, how they're footballers. But when you look, how many footballers have sons who become footballers? You count them on one hand, can't you?
Yeah.
Name me 10 players who have played at the top level. You know, who had fathers who were players. It's very, very difficult to find any. You know, Nigel Clough. You know, you can find 4, 5, 6 perhaps. You know, but very difficult. It was amazing that from the same family we had 2 boys who both went on to become top players. Really,
yeah.
I think it was their mothers. I think it was on their mother's side. They definitely got their looks from their mum, which was their mum's.
Well, yeah. Okay, we'll move on. What about Jamie? You must be very proud of Jamie. I know, Mark, you've got 2 sons. Mark's a model. Jamie's done so well on television after a great career on football.
Yeah. He's done well with the TV. He enjoys that, the punditry. Enjoys working with Sky. I mean, he understands the game, Gary. I mean, he played the game like he understood it, where he middle of the park, and so he enjoys that. I think it keeps him as the nearest thing to being involved, you know. And I often thought, well, maybe he should go into coaching earlier on, but I think now them days that's gone, that time now, and I think he's very settled in what he does. He enjoys it. And you know, he enjoys going to all the games every Saturday and being part of the setup at the Premier League matches with Sky.
Yeah. He obviously gets a chat from his dad if he gets everything else, his looks from his mum. But let's just talk about your greatest achievement as a manager. I know you got Spurs in the European Champions League, but would you say that winning the FA Cup, as it's FA Cup weekend, with Portsmouth was probably the best thing you achieved as manager? You had a great career.
Maybe taking Bournemouth you know, I was managing, my first job was managing Bournemouth, which I managed for nearly 10 years. But you know, they'd been in the Division 2, 3 and 4 for 100 years, never been in the Championship, and people always said they'll never get into the Championship. And I won the old 3rd division, and we got into the Championship. So that was always special to me, because people said they would never get out the lower divisions because they'd never done it in their history. So that was always special to me that day. Winning at Fulham to get promoted was something I'll never forget, you know. And then you have other things, don't you? You know, at West Ham, you know, we finishing 5th in the Premier League is still their highest position. Going back to Portsmouth when they was, you know, winning the title with Portsmouth with Jim Smith, who was such a help to me. You know, Jim was amazing for me. He was probably my best ever signing. I took Jim with me when I went to Portsmouth, and they were a team that had been in the bottom 5 of the Championship 5 years running. bottom 5, bottom 6. And I took Jim with me because, you know, that he was idolised in his time at Portsmouth. And we went back there, brought Kevin Bond with us, and off Joe Jordan came and joined us. And off we went, and we won the title the first year. And that was a great time to win the championship and take Pompey into the Premier League. And then going back to Portsmouth, Gary, when I left Southampton, they were bottom of the league, 18 points with 10 games to go. We went on an incredible run, you know, and picked up 20 points at the next 9 games to keep ourselves in the division. When we only had 18, they'd only had 18 in the previous 28. So that was always special to me as well. So yeah, lots of different things in your life. Even Birmingham, you know, to going to Birmingham with 3 games to go when they've been on a run of 1 win in 25 or so, having to win 2 out of the last 3 and tough games, you know, going to beating Huddersfield at home, who were looking to beat us to get automatic, and we beat them with 10 men. We had Che Adams sent off after 10 minutes, and then going to Bristol City on the last day of the season, having to win. A draw was no good. So they were all good days, you know. I had downs. Listen, I've had my downs as well. Make no mistakes, but it's all part of life, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, Harry. You've had many twists in your life, but here's one that's incredible. You win I'm a Celebrity. Has that changed your life?
Absolutely changed it massively. I mean, from being a football manager, the fellas used to talk to about football. Now it's all women and kids. I mean, we're like a tourist attraction down here where we live in Southampton. Cars stop outside. We live on the beach, so everybody's on the beach. Harry, Sandra, give it. It's non-stop. We walk the dogs. It takes us an hour to walk the dogs 100 yards. I mean, we get stopped, selfie. It's just, but people are lovely, and if people are nice, I give everybody my time, Gary. It don't cost nothing. Nice to be nice. It doesn't cost you nothing. You know, and I've always said that to footballers when I was a manager: sign autographs for kids. Be nice to people. They pay your wages. Yeah. Be nice to them. You can make someone's day, or you know, make someone's holiday if they're down here for a week by being nice to people. It don't cost me nothing, and I'm only too pleased to be like that.
Harry, we've known each other a long while. Absolutely thrilled that you're on the show, mate, and thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Good to see you, Gary, and keep well, mate. Love you.
Yeah.
Goalkeeper David Seaman won 3 league titles and 4 FA Cups with Arsenal. I asked him about working with both managers George Graham and Arsene Wenger.
They were contrasting managers, weren't they, George Graham? Both very successful, and Arsene Wenger. Yeah. Wenger proved to be the most successful and longest serving, 22 years, I think, manager that Arsenal ever had. What was he like from your point of view? Well, first of all, let's talk about George Graham. What was he like from your point of view?
George was hard. He worked the players really hard. You know, and that back four at Arsenal wasn't by fluke. It was through sheer hard work. And George would do training drills almost every day on that back four. You know, and it'd be the four in front of me against about 8 attackers, and they hardly ever got through. You know, and it was like almost every day. You know, so it was through sheer hard work that they got that good. But he knew what he got, George. He got a team that was willing to work for each other. You know, it weren't the most talented team, but it was a very effective team. You know, we got labelled with the long ball and things like that, but it won us trophies. You know, and we were like, well, you can call us what you want, but here's another trophy.
Yeah, and of course it was 1-0 to the Arsenal was the song, wasn't it?
Exactly. You know, and that's what we knew. We knew that if we scored, we were almost guaranteed a win. You know, because we could just shut shop.
Yeah. Now, the vice chairman, David Dean, had 2 attempts when George went to bring in Arsene Wenger. The second one successful. Why was he so successful, and what was he like to play for?
He was Arsene Wenger. Sorry, I thought about David Dean. No, Arsene was brilliant because he came in and he saw. Obviously, you know, Arsenal is a football professor and he watches football all the time, and. You know, when he came in, he knew what he'd got. He knew he'd got a good defence, so he left that alone. Hopefully, he realised he got a decent goalie as well. And then he added to it. You know, so he added like Vieira, Petit, Anelka, and then like people like Overmars came in. You know, all these players that were like real quality. But then he had a good core of English players in there that taught the new lads
And you had the Invincibles where you went for so long without losing a match. I mean, that was incredible.
Yeah, well, it was incredible for them, you know, because they called themselves the Invincibles. Because I just left, and then the next season, Jens came in and they became the Invincibles. But I call us the Incredibles because we won a lot more trophies.
Good.
And it's congratulations to boxing promoter Frank Warren, his 40th anniversary as a licensed promoter. He'll be reliving now some of his best fights. Let's look back over your 40 years. I mean, some of the list of world champions you've had: Nazim Hamid, Frank Bruno, Tyson Fury, Josh Warrington, Joe Calzaghe, Nigel Benn, Billy Joe Saunders, Steve Collins, Chris Eubank, Amir Khan, Ricky Hatton, and there'll be others as well. Gosh, that is a fantastic career, that one, Frank.
Yeah, I can't complain. I've been involved with some decent fighters and some decent fights over the years, and it's been, you know, it's been really enjoyable. Obviously, there's been a few moments that, like in life for all people, you have your ups and downs, but there's been more ups than downs, and I've enjoyed every moment of it.
There have been some particular highlights, though, haven't they? I mean, Nazim Hamid becoming the youngest ever world champion from Britain. Frank Bruno, the nation's favourite, finally getting a world title. And there was a big night with Ricky Hatton as well, with Costas Tassou. So do you have a particular favourite of all those?
I really enjoyed my time promoting Naz in the early days before his brother got involved, who caused all sorts of upsets. But I really enjoyed that with Naz, and he says, you know, both of us treasure those memories, and we have, you know, when we meet up, we're always talking about them. And to his credit, Naz said that, you know, he should stay with me all along. He decided towards the end of his career to go off, but that's show business, and I get that. That they were good times. Joe Calzaghe beating Jeff Lacey when all the press, all the American media, all the British press thought Lacey was going to knock him over. He was the next big thing. I thought that was a great night with Joe. Joe thought Kessler was a fantastic fight, a great fight. I mean, in Cardiff, 54,000 people there. That was a brilliant night. As you mentioned earlier, Frank Bruno, Oliver McCall knocked out Lennox Lewis, and we really did fancy that he could do it, that he could win that fight. And he would have been to the well 3 times and was unsuccessful. And it was, from my point of view, it was a little bit sweet that it was at Wembley, and then sitting in the front row was Jarvis and Mickey and whatever. and their man, to all intents and purposes, won the world title with me. So I was pleased with that. But it's been, you know, it's been lots of that. Tyson's been brilliant. I mean, Tyson coming back from the terrible place he was at,
Tyson
come back and win, you know, to get robbed in his fight, the first fight against Wilder, getting off the floor but got robbed, and then the second fight putting the matter right and winning in style. It was a tremendous performance. You know, there's been loads of moments. Amir Khan, you know, he got, you know, when he dad and their trainer went against my wishes, and they insisted he fought Brodus Prescott, which I didn't want, and he got stopped in the first round. But to bring him back 2 fights later and win a world title, that was a sweet moment. Yeah. There's been some great times, like some great moments.
Would you say, though, because of the heavyweight scene, that Tyson Fury winning in Las Vegas would have been the actual top of everything, even if he had great moments with Hamid and Bruno and everything else?
But he's not finished yet. He's still fighting. No,
but it was the first time.
Look, for me, it's the best overseas moment, and probably the most dramatic moment, that last round, the way he got off the floor and won that, and come back and was on top at the end of the round against Wilder. Dramatic, man. You know, Tyson's been, you know, well, it's been marvellous what he's done, and that for me is probably, you know, the way and the second fight, the way he destroyed Wilder, probably that's the real cherry on the cake. But there's been some fantastic moments. You know, Ricky Hatton beating Costa Zoo, who was then pound for pound #1 in the world.
Yeah.
Beating Nigel Benn in that tragic night, beating Gerald McClellan when he was again was the underdog. You know, unbelievably good. But you think all the fights we've been talking about, they've all been underdogs, and I've fancied every one of them to do the job.
Yeah.
So I've picked some good moments. Listen, there's been some losses, but I've picked some fights at the right time for my guys that they've won.
You certainly do. I mean, you guys, and Mickey Duff, in fairness, was good at it. Just judging when a long reigning world champion had just got to the point where the other guy could win.
Well, no, that's not the. I mean,
well, I'm thinking about Terry Marsh. You picked Terry Marsh to beat Joe Manley, who'd been the world welterweight champion for a long while.
He was another underdog to do that. He fought well that night winning it. But if you look at Joe against Lacey. Lacey weren't an old man; he was a young man.
No.
He was young man. You know, Costa Zoo. He wasn't an old guy with Ricky, but no one fancied Ricky except for Ricky and me and Billy Graham. That was it.
And then the terrible situation where we nearly lost you on the 30th of November '89 when you got shot by an unknown assailant wearing a balaclava outside the Broadway Theatre in Barking. Your injuries for that were quite scary, weren't they? I mean, I suppose you were lucky to still be here. You lost a lung and part of the ribs.
Use of half my lung, yeah.
We've got to be careful what we say about this because of legalities. And Terry Marshall, first world champion, was actually acquitted by a jury. I'm not asking you to name anybody, but do you know who shot you?
Yeah. I didn't at the time, but I do now.
Yeah. Okay.
I had known for a number of years.
Yeah. And that case will never be brought again, will it? It was brought once, and I think there's no investigation these days. Is that right?
Yes, they closed the case.
Closed the case. Well, you did fantastically well to come back in business from that, because obviously you owned the London Arena at the time, and it's got to affect business. How did you manage to get back to the big time as well as you've done after that?
It was tough, Gary. You know, I mean, you know, I was working with you at High TV at the time.
Yeah.
Tough times. I had no choice. I'd given personal guarantees. We built London Arena. It was the first arena built in London for many, many years. 12,500 seat multi-purpose arena in Docklands. We was up against a lot of problems there because the infrastructure wasn't in, which we were promised was going to be there. All sorts of things going on. And when it happened, I was 10 days away, having agreed, 10 days away from signing off with a syndication of banks who were going to take a 50% stake in the arena, which would have been brilliant. But that all fell away. So I lost on that. But so I had to come back. I had to get out there. I discharged myself from hospital. I'd lost about 3 stone in weight because of it, 3.5 stone, and just got back in doing what I do.
Yeah.
Got back to basics and worked my way through it, which I was determined to do.
A good point.
Thank you for joining us then for this Saturday special of the Gary Newbon Sports Show in conjunction with the Utilita Energy and the Daily Mail Online Sport. You can see any of the 22 previous episodes by going to the Facebook pages of punching.tv or the Daily Mail Sport Online. Thanks for being with us.